So Katie's from HUP, company that have been to a number of our roadshows and events, and they provide a kind of flat pack type extension, I guess. It's slightly different from pod that you're craning. It's kind of manufactured in the factory in parts and then put together on site, which has a lot of advantages, as we can just talk about, Steve, in terms of cost certainty, time, lack of mess, etc. So I'll hand over to Katie to kind of explain to us how it works.
Afternoon, everybody. As Paul mentioned, my name is Katie. I work for Ultraframe, who deliver the HUP product. So what I'm going to go through today with you is just basically an overview of what HUP is and how that benefits the DFG side of the public sector, and then hopefully relate back to some of the comments from Alex earlier about the adaptations needed to be completed quickly for those with MND, and how a delay in a traditional build, for example, can have a heavy toll. So throughout the presentation that I've got today, hopefully we'll demonstrate to you where there's some savings in terms of cost, but also the time savings which will support those with MND. I did note that an occupational therapist in here has said that you don't always know what the condition of your patient is. However, we have kind of been in a position to know that our HUP extensions are taking weeks rather than months, or potentially, as Alex alluded to earlier, 375 days. So who are we? So we are based up in the Northwest. We've been in our industry now for over 40 years. So we originally started as a roofing manufacturer, and we've basically adapted into construction methods due to the change in how homeowners perceive conservatories and roofing opportunities. So we've delivered over 1,500 extensions to date in the private sector, and we are now moving swiftly into the public sector to support you guys with delivering disabled adaptations within the timescales that obviously you are legislatively required to meet. So we do have over 500,000 square foot of manufacturing space, so we are in a perfect position to be scaling up should we need to. So what is HUP? HUP is a BBA approved system which has a lifespan of a minimum of 60 years. So in order to get a BBA approval, they expect that the materials are going to last longer than 60 years. The building regulations side of our product, we are compliant and approved. So we do have outside building control that have pre-approved our products. So I appreciate that guys within your local authorities would use your own resources. We do have a building reg compliant pack that we can send you, so that you don't have to go away and get your fire risks done, your condensation risk analysis, etc., because we've done all of that. So ultimately the reason for that is that our product is manufactured in our factory, and the materials don't ever change. Obviously what changes really is the length, and obviously then how many parts of that you need to construct your product. So it is lightweight. It's lighter than a brick wall. So the comparison there is we're approximately 40.7 kilos a square metre compared to 278 kilos. So that does mean that we can sit our product onto a base that we manufacture as well, that can then sit onto ground screws. So in terms of that cost saving, it does mean that you do need to, or don't need to rather, complete a complete traditional dig rather than and then use the ground screws and have a 150 dig approximately across the floor space of the extension. We are fire tested as well, so we are testing outside to in and inside to out, and that is approved and being completed on both of those. And our compression and stiffness testing proves that we are stronger than a brick wall. So taking a little closer look at the components of HUP. So we deliver this in a kit of parts rather than a pod, as alluded to earlier, that some councils have also already kind of dipped their toe into. So the benefit of delivering in a kit of parts means that less space is required on site compared to a traditional build. We need less skips, we need less waste management, and then the parts can also be manually handled on site rather than needing heavy lifting equipment. So you certainly don't need to have a crane to take these over the house. The kit of parts can be walked through. So again, in terraced houses, in certain areas, this is a perfect product because there's no wet materials, meaning that it's not going to cause any disruption to the home itself. So just a quick overview of the panel itself. So they typically come in 600 mil wide sections, so nice and easy to maneuver. They come ready cut to size. So if we're doing a raked wall, for example, with a lean-to roof, that panel will come already raked, and the height of the panel comes in one as well. So whether we're doing a 2.4 wall, for example, or a 1800 wall, if we're having a window in there, that panel will come cut to size. So in terms of the kit of parts as well, we offer two different wall options essentially that we supply. So we offer it up to render board that you can then obviously render onto, or we do offer it up to a brick slip. So essentially, once your membrane is in place on the outside, we are watertight, ready for works internally. So you can have simultaneous trades working at once, which means that you can deliver your full extension at a much more timely pace than doing traditional builds. So we are 100% prefabricated, so minimal cutting required on site. So this generally tends to be around just cutting the membrane, for example, or any brick slips around reveals. Generally, corners are prefabricated as well from a brick slip point of view. And then the cutting of the insulation and the chipboard for the base is required, but the walls and the roof are 100% prefabricated. We do offer complete design flexibility. So we do offer 4 different roof types available with our hut walling, but generally in the extension market, we tend to find these are tiled roof or flat roof. So in terms of design as well, we can support large openings on our roof, so minimum of 4 meters on maximum of 4 meters, sorry, on our tiled roof, and up to 5.6 meters on our flat roof, meaning that you don't need any additional heavy lintels, and in the windows and doors there's no lintels required either. So as previously mentioned, we don't need any heavy plant machinery to put this into place, as it's all designed for manual handling, and the skips and waste management will be largely reduced compared to traditional if using ground screws and our base. Another benefit of HUP is that because we do have no wet materials in the construction of the shell, so to speak, you can build it in any weather. So whether it's raining or snowing, we can deliver the completion of the external wall shell ready for render if required, or brick slipping. That can still be completed, and then mortar obviously when the weather permits you to do that. So we do offer technical estimating and design support for ease of ordering. So we do have an in-house structural engineer, and our software that we use to complete the HUPs also has a structural design guide in there. So we will uplift the product if needs be to support any oversized doors and so on. So future proofing, obviously sustainability is a huge point across local authorities. We are 5 times more energy efficient than the average UK home. So hut walling does achieve a U value of 0.17 on the walls, and roofs are between 0.12 and 0.15 dependent on your choice of solid roof. So we do have a reduction in embodied carbon versus traditional construction methods. So we're about 38% better for the environment than doing a traditional build. And we do have zero waste on site and during our manufacturing as well at our ISO 14001 factory. So our hut base, again, delivers the opportunity to complete the build at speed. So this is a steel ladder work system which we cut to size and deliver it, and it connects on a simple male and female connection. So the cutting that's required here is for your insulation and the OSB, but the materials to deliver the base itself come in a kit of parts, and the excavation required here compared to a traditional build is approximately about 60% less. So if we take an example, obviously dependent on what your internal finished floor height is, but a minimum of 150 mil. So the base is 80 mil deep, and it requires a 70 mil airflow below. So as you can see in the top left image there, the excavation is completed across the full footprint of the extension, but generally approximately 150 mil. So if we take that on an average 3x3, for example, if you were doing a traditional footing, that's about 7 tonne of soil, so a grab lorry or about 3 skips, versus doing a 150 mil excavation is approximately 2.7 tonnes, so 1 skip. So we're vastly reducing those costs on site in that scenario as well. And typically you can have that base completed in half a day. So again, with good project management, ground screw company in the morning to complete the ground screws, base in the afternoon, and then you'd be ready for walling on day 2. So what do we deliver in terms of the kit of parts? So we offer, as a finished product, we offer up to brick slip finish or render board finish, but you can have alternative external finishes such as cement boards and other materials, but we supply up to render finish or brick slip. And here is just an overview of what comes with each kit. We do supply an aperture trim for around windows and doors as well, which just gives you a really nice, neat finish. And because we obviously aren't having a cavity like you would in a traditional, the walling is slightly slimmer, meaning that your reveals on the outside are also slimmer compared to traditional build. So from a roofing perspective, the main roofs that we find within our extension market, of course, is a flat roof with generally a lantern or a flat skylight in, or a pitched roof with a composite tile on top, which is also lightweight. We do have a hybrid roof, which looks like a traditional lead look roof, and then we do have a glass roof as well if costs don't permit a solid roof, but we can also pass SAP with our glass roofs as well. So hut walling is approximately 100 mil narrower than a traditional brick wall as well. So if we take the 2 footprints here, we're looking at a 4x4. So on average, we're delivering an extra 1 metre of internal living space. So particularly in disabled adaptations where we look at a wet room and we need a turning circle, or we're having to put disabled equipment attached to walls, such as a changing table or a ceiling hoist or a wall mounted hoist that will take up living space internally. Using HUP will combat some of that. So generally speaking, we are able to use smaller footprints and still achieve the same internal floor space as traditional. Alternatively, use the same footprint and we get more internal floor space. So within the public sector, we have upgraded our hut walling to accommodate wet rooms. So I know wet rooms have been mentioned several times in this session this afternoon. So what we've done is we've essentially adapted our base to accommodate an extra drainage channel. So if we are doing a wet room and you're using a Fibo flooring or waterproof wall, just to prevent any moisture getting behind, this will actually drain out of the base rather than into the room. We've also added a pattress panel in there as well to give additional support to attaching any wall mounted showers or adult changing tables. And our flat roof has also been tested to accommodate up to 500 kilos for a ceiling hoist. So we've tested this with the weight all to one side, so there is no additional supports required to take a ceiling hoist in our flat roof. From a warranty point of view, Ultraframe offer a 10-year guarantee. So from a product point of view, structural, that's 10 years. The BBA is a 60-year lifespan, but we don't offer a 60-year guarantee. But obviously it is building reg compliant, so the homeowner will receive their either planning certificate or their building reg compliance as you would with a traditional build. So just to walk through the video. So this is the base that you can see that drainage for a wet room can be located underneath the base. As I mentioned earlier, there is a 70 mil gap below. We then supply a 12 mil ply and the insulation that you see here. And that U-shaped channel that's been included there is for the public sector wet room specification. We then include pattress panels there, which will take your wall mounted products. We then batten on the internal. Then we provide a calcium silicate board to the floor, which is a waterproof product, enabling you to bring that into a obviously disabled ready floor. And then the calcium silicate board is also applied to the walls internally as well as a waterproof internal wall as well, ready for whichever material you would normally complete your wet room with. So just a couple of case studies. So we recently carried out a project with Hertfordshire Council, which was an extremely large extension. It was an L shape with a projection of 9 metres. It's not really depicted in this, but I can share the details if anybody is particularly interested in the floor plan. But this particular project was 3 disabled children all receiving the £30,000 grant. So there was £90,000 worth of DFG funding towards this extension, and the build was completed in 15 working days across 2 months because it was over the Christmas period, and also because the builder had a traditional mindset and didn't order the windows and doors until the build was up, and then measured the apertures. But for reference to everybody, we precision cut the apertures in our factory, so you can order windows and doors at the same time that you send your order for your hut build, which will obviously either include base, roof and walls, or just roof and walls. But we do precision cut those, so you just make your normal deductions as you would if you were doing traditional build on there. So the second case study here was actually somebody with motor neurones disease. So this project here was completed by one of our northern partners, and the patient still had to move out of the property due to the condition, but this project was completed in a matter of weeks compared to traditional methods, which would have taken months potentially, especially with recent wet weather as well. So this is a very recent study that we've carried out. So that's it from me particularly, but if anyone has any questions, please drop them into the chat and I'm happy to answer them. The QR code down the bottom there does take you to our public sector page, which does have technical details, installation guides, and so on if you need them. And Paul will drop my email address and contact number if anybody is interested in discussing HUP further. So what I would do following this is carry out any CPD presentations to you as councils, housing associations, invite your contractors along to go through the product in terms of surveying and installation, but also the benefits to the homeowner. Anybody is putting their own money to the build potentially may need some support on why HUP is better than traditional, and I'm happy to go through that from a sales perspective as well.
Great, thank you, Katie. I've put your contact details on the screen in case anybody wants them. A couple of questions I thought might be useful to just go through. So one of them was around planning permission, and obviously any extension over a certain size requires planning permission. But I think it's interesting with kind of HUP and kind of similar products in terms of permitted development. And perhaps you just give kind of people a flavour of the advantages of permitted development, and particularly like why products like HUP mean you can get more from a kind of permitted development route than a traditional build.
So the HUP doesn't give you the benefit of kind of doing what you would like to with it. Essentially, you still have to meet the permitted development building regs and the planning permission rules. So in terms of under permitted development, your semi-detached properties can go up to 3 metres and detached properties up to 4 metres on a projection. So using HUP doesn't allow you to navigate around that at all. Where the benefit comes in with HUP is that we are pre-approved with external bodies from a building regs perspective. But in terms of using your internal resources, we do have a building regs pack which does negate you needing to go and get condensation risk analysis, structural calcs, and all of those kind of things, because we can support that. And the materials that we use in our flat roof and tiled roof are the same as what goes in the wall. So the construction of the panel, if you like, is exactly the same, and it doesn't change. So in terms of moving from project to project, you don't need to do those calculations on a project by project basis because the materials don't change.
Yeah, and that's kind of the other point I was alluding to was that with permitted development, you can go up to a certain size in terms of the external footprint, can't you? But with your kind of
Yes.
thinner
Get more
walls,
internal floor space.
you get
Yeah.
extra internal wall space, don't you, for permitted development? And I think kind of particularly with these sort of cases where you're trying to get them in quickly, if you can go through permitted development, then it can save 2 months kind of kind of planning permission if
Yeah, so if we're looking at a 4x4, if we get an extra square meter using hut versus traditional, then you could potentially afford to go smaller on the external footprint and still achieve the same amount of floor space as you would traditionally, which obviously then would reduce some cost as well, and then mean that you could potentially take that through permitted development rather than full planning.
Absolutely. Next two questions, I think, are kind of linked. So it's about whether you install or just supply, and covering all of the UK, which I suppose is very much linked, aren't they?
We are a national supplier, so we do support the full country in terms of delivery. We are a supply only business. That said, what there are a few options. We don't want to put barriers in the way of this market particularly. So if you guys have your own internal building teams, or you have contractors that you would normally go to carry out an extension, then we would train those builders to deliver hut. So the product is designed for very easy, quick assembly, and for an average installer to be able to complete it. So a skilled bricklayer, carpenter would be able to fit this with ease, but we do offer on-site training for their first installation, and we could extend that, if the complexity of the first couple of projects is vastly different. That said, if the kind of barrier is that we just want to pass the drawings on and have somebody complete it as a full turnkey solution, then I'm happy to discuss that on a case by case basis, and see where we can put you in touch with an experienced hut builder.
And then the last one I've got at the moment is around kind of mortgage suitability. I mean, I think it's only recently, isn't it, that you've kind of gone into the DFG sector, and most kind of products are kind of private purchases, aren't they?
So we do, on our website, we do have some frequently asked questions, and one of those does come around the mortgage. Generally speaking, when you are asked, from your extension point of view, if you're remortgaging, what's it made of? They're talking about the external appearance, and obviously from a planning point of view, the external appearance as well. So it goes down to like a timber builder. Plymouth Council mentioned that earlier. They're not traditional bricks and mortar, but you can still get a mortgage on properties that are using modern methods.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Let me just put your contact details up one last time, just in case anybody wants your email or mobile number. So if you want to find out more about Hook, then give Katie a call. So thank you, Katie.